Okay, everybody, good morning and welcome to our Hadassah learning class. We're glad that you could join us on this morning if you're with us in class, and if you're watching this at a different time, please make sure that you show your appreciation by sending in donations to Hadassah, Lavona, contacting Sandy Wine, Rose Charlotte, Xenia Cohen, or even myself if you'd like to sponsor a class. And we're glad that you're with us, and we hope that you're healthy. We seem to have a very full month of January birthdays, and we wish everyone a mazel tov and good health. Today, we're going to begin, or actually continue with Sefer Yehoshua, and we will, I sent everybody who is on the mailing list a couple of handouts. I'm going to actually share one of them with you. And
the one I couldn't get, or
okay, so let's look at this. If any of you have any trouble printing out or looking at any of the handouts, just let me know. I'll try and resend them to you. But this was the one of them. It is, we've seen this before. It is the family tree of Yaakov, of Jacob. And the reason that we are taking a look at this now is because we are in the midst of, in Sefer Yehoshua, of allocating inheritance in the land of Canaan, soon to be Eretz Yisrael. So we spent a great deal of time last week with the continuation of the inheritance of the tribe of Yehuda. And we learned about Othniel, who will eventually become the first of the judges. So keep his name in your mind or on a piece of paper to remind you. So we will learn about him at a later date. However, let's take a look at this, okay? Because this chart is going to be the focal point of today's lesson. First of all, we know we have Leah and Rachel, two sisters in a contentious situation against each other. Very difficult. One sister who was not intended to be the wife of Yaakov has 6 of the sons of Yaakov, 6 of the tribes. And we have already found out in the Sefer Yehoshua that Reuven has been given his property on the east side of the Jordan River. He wants to stay on the east side because it's excellent grazing for his flocks. He is joined by Gad, and he is joined also on the east side by half of Manasseh. Now, we also learned that the tribe of Levi receives no property as an inheritance. They live throughout the country, especially in the cities of refuge and the environs around those cities, and they are all over the country, and their main job is to be the spiritual leaders of Bnei Yisrael. So they receive no physical inheritance, but they get divine inheritance of the priesthood. The next one we heard from in terms of inheritance at great length was Judah, the tribe of Yehuda. And we heard in depth all the 112 cities, villages, and areas that he inherits through Kalev, who stands up and says, that was the area I spied out. many years ago, and that was promised to me by Hashem. So we heard in detail last week about Yehuda, the tribe of Yehuda through Kalev. Now, today we are going to continue with the inheritance of the tribe of Yosef. Now, Yosef doesn't get property and inheritance. He gets it through his two children, Ephraim and Manasseh. And these two tribes will be the representatives always of Yosef, B'nai Yosef. So anytime we mention Manasseh and Ephraim, we're also referring to the tribe of Yosef. So please keep that in mind. It's very important. Rachel had two sons, Yosef and Binyamin. After Binyamin, she dies. Leah has 6 sons, and we will see what happens to the rest of these sons today. Now, also, don't forget that there were handmaidens of Rachel and Leah, Bilhah and Zilpah. They also each had 2 of the B'nai Yisrael, the tribes of Israel, and we're going to learn about them as well and their inheritances. So this is a very important chart. If you have it printed out, it's great that you can keep it in front of you because we're going to refer to it often today. Now, let's continue to talk about the chapter 16, and we will I'm going to
Rhonda, isn't it interesting how there was only one daughter in all those sons? Only Dinah?
well
Strange.
the truth of the matter is there were other daughters, but none of them had any notoriety or and I hate to use this word, but they were not significant in the story. So Dinah, as we know, had a significant story, and it involved Shimon and Levi, and I'm sure you remember the Parsha with that, okay? But there were other children, because we find out that Yosef, when the B'nai Yisrael go down to Egypt, there are 70 souls, and some of those included women, I'm sure. So
Are actually mentioned, are they?
no, they're not. A lot of daughters are not mentioned throughout Jewish history, unless they have a significant role to play. So it's just a fact of life, what you want to call it, whatever, feminist, misogynist, whatever. I just like to call it Jewish history, that's all. Okay, so let's see. We're going to, do you still see this on the screen, the, or did I close? Let's see.
Yeah.
I closed that, okay. So now we're going to go to talk about chapter 16, which we're going to read in a minute, but I want to give you some information about that. In chapter 16 and 17, we're going to find out the parameters and the inheritance of the tribal boundaries of Yosef. If you recall that we already found out about everything about Yehuda, and now Yosef is the second most important tribe in this story, and we're going to learn the relationship between Yehuda and Yosef, tribe of Yehuda, tribe of Yosef, and the 2 brothers who come from 2 different mothers, the wives of Yaakov. Now, it is interesting to note that these two tribes of Yehuda and Yosef were not only very important tribes in what they actually do and what history comes from these two tribes, but they were really divinely ordained by Hashem in the arrangement of the camp of Israel during the time that we had in the wilderness, the 40 years in the desert. Now, why is that significant? Well, we're going to learn, I'm going to show you in a minute with the second handout that I sent to you, that Yehuda and his associates, meaning his tribal brothers, Yissachar and Zvulun, were arranged on the around the Mishkan on the eastern flank of in the desert of the Mishkan. Totally opposite on the western flank of the Mishkan was the tribe of Yosef and the which included Ephraim and Binyamin. Now we're going to take a look at that, and we're going to find out. It's very significant because the tribe of Yehuda was placed right across the entrance to the Holy of Holies. Now I'm going to put it up on the screen. Just give me a second, please. Let's see here. Screen. Do you see that? Does everyone see that on the screen? Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Anybody out there?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we have on the eastern flank, we have Yehuda. Here's north going this way. Here's south going this way. East, west. Here is the tribes of Judah. Judah is the third son. Let's see, fourth, fifth, and sixth. I think he's the fourth son, Judah. Then he's flanked by Zvulun and Issachar. They are fourth, fifth, and sixth sons of Leah. Now here is Aaron and Moshe, and in the middle here is the Beit HaMikdash, the Mishkan, and these are the Kohanim families with Aaron and Moshe. All of them are surrounding the Beit HaMikdash in the desert, in the wilderness. Opposite Judah are the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh that represent Yosef and Benjamin. Those are the sons of Rachel. These are the sons of Leah. They are opposite each other. And then we have Reuven over here in the middle, surrounded by Shimon and Gad. On the north side, there's Asher, Dan, and Naphtali. That all the sons are represented here, but these two seem to be the tribes of Yosef and the tribe of Judah always seem to be at odds with each other. There is a very interesting tug and pull, as if it were the actual sisters who are in conflict with each other. Now, let's see, I have to, hold on, I have some technical details that I need to see. How do I get this? Okay, so I'm sorry, can you see how I can close the screen here? I
What
just,
about when you get it, when you
Alright,
put up the screen?
alright,
Isn't that
hold
off?
on a second, okay. I'm trying to close the screen so that I can continue speaking about the, oh, I'm so sorry that I'm having technical difficulties here. Okay, now, all right. So what is it that we're going to be learning today about these two tribes? In effect, the tabernacle was bracketed by the house of Yosef and the house of Judah opposite each other. This is significant because we find that throughout history, they are always at odds with each other. And we're going to take a look today a little bit about the two sisters and the two brothers. Okay, so now, still, oh my God. Still having a terrible time with the screen. I am so sorry. So now, what we find, who comes from what and where? As we know, from the tribe of Judah, we get the Davidic line eventually. And interestingly enough, we find what happens as a result in the tribe of Yosef. There seems to be this contentiousness throughout history, Jewish history, with these two tribes. And what we do is find is that once we enter, I will always be bringing back the Sefer Yehoshua in this saga of Rachel and Leah. Once we enter the land of Canaan in Sefer Yehoshua, we find that we live in our inherited tribal areas for approximately 400 years. Now, soon after the demise of the temple and the dissolution of the United Kingdoms of Israel, when the country splits into two, how do they split? The ancient tribal rivalries show itself again with the splitting of Yehuda as the kingdom of Yehuda in the south, and the kingdom of Israel in the north, which includes the tribes of Yosef and others, but it is always referred to during this period of time as the kingdom of Ephraim. And we're going to learn later about that. Now, what happens is that later on in the kingdom of Israel, where there's the tribe of Yosef, the Manasseh and Ephraim, that tribe is dispersed and overcome and defeated by the Assyrians, and they are sent to exile. 150 years later, the southern kingdom of Yehuda is destroyed by the Babylonians, and they are sent to exile to Babylonia. So in effect, the two tribes go their separate ways at the end of the period of kings. But what about before that? What's happened to, in essence, create this so strong of a split that they go in their very different ways, even in exile, So The earlier sources say that while the two most prominent brothers, Yosef and Yehuda, Yosef and Yehuda, Yosef was his father's favorite son. We know that. We know that because he received what from Yaakov?
His coat.
The coat of many
Right.
colors. And he was also taken aside and taught by Yaakov himself, and given special education while the brothers were out in the fields working. Now, Yosef's dreams really foretell the future rise of his prominence in the world at the time. Now, what happens, there's such rivalry between the brothers. We see at the time where Yosef goes to look for his brothers. And does anyone remember where they're living at the time, where he goes out into the fields and looks for his brothers to
In
find
Dotan,
what?
in Dotan.
No, they're in Shechem.
Oh, sorry, yes. No,
They're-
they were shepherding in Dotan.
Right, they were shepherding in Shechem. So when their brothers decide to to kill Yosef, actually Reuven, the firstborn of Leah, says, "Don't throw him in the pit, but don't kill him, but throw him in a pit." And it was Yehuda, after he is in the pit, who says, "Let's sell him, Yosef, let's not kill him, and let's sell him to the Ishmaelites." So we find that Yehuda steps up to the plate to defend and to preserve Yosef's life. Okay? A brother from one mother saves the brother from another mother. Now, later on, we find that Yehuda, who has come down to Egypt to get food during the famine, doesn't know that this viceroy of Egypt is his brother Yosef, and he begged. Remember, the brothers come down to Egypt. They need to get food. They're living in Canaan. Yaakov sends them. And what do they eventually find? That their brother Yosef is alive and well and is actually doling out the food that they will eventually receive. So here we have Yehuda, who stands up in front of this unknown viceroy at the time and pleads with him to release the brother Benjamin. Yehuda, from the mother of Leah, is pleading not to kill or take the brother Benjamin from the mother of Rachel, because they believe they have already killed somehow Yosef, not knowing that Yosef is still alive. So here again are the two factions against each other. Yehuda, who eventually brings the tribes of Israel down to Egypt. He leads them to Egypt during the famine. Once they know that Yosef is in charge and they can get food during this terrible famine, he is the vanguard, the forefront of the migration of the 70 souls of all the brothers and their families, and he arrives ahead of the family to Mitzrayim and prepares the way for them. Both brothers are therefore the
Together.
They are now together, and they are the embodiment of the ideals of this dynamic leadership and struggle within the family. Yehuda on the one hand and Yosef on the other hand. And they're placed in history at very important times, one against the other, and both of them sometimes together. Now, they both incorporate a spiritual striving and they mature. You see their maturation over the course of the time we see them in the Torah. And then in the end, we see them both triumphant. So it's these struggles against each other throughout the Torah, the Chumash, and then eventually coming together. Now, in Sefer Yehoshua, we learn that these two tribes of Yehuda and Yosef are expressed in the division of the land of Canaan, that their critical functions of these two tribes are really to maintain a nation, to create and maintain a nation together. But that doesn't seem possible for some reason. The conflict is always there. And we learn that the two are awarded larger properties as inheritances. They're expansive territories that are designated ahead of any of the other tribes. We see that. We saw it in the maps, and we now see it as we start to read chapter 16. So Yehuda is designated for leadership, and Yosef is designated for success. And while initially Yosef and Yehuda are pitted against each other as rivals, in the end, we are going to see something quite amazing if we get to the end today, and they reunite the family of Israel, and they ensure its well-being and its creation in the state of Israel. Going to see that. Now, it is now let's take a look at the earlier days of Leah and Rachel. The only time in the Torah that we hear about a polygamous marriage and the difficulties and the stress and strain of a marriage of a man to sisters is with Leah and Rachel in Bereshit. And we find that they're living in Haran, and this is the ancestral home of Lavan. He plays a tremendous part in trickery and deception, and he actually almost sets the tone for this constant dispute between his two daughters and the wives of Yaakov. Now, on the one hand, Rachel was forever dominated by the bitter rivalry between the sisters, because she could not have sons, she could not get pregnant, and her sister Leah was producing one son after another for Yaakov, and this created a tremendous tension between the two sisters. And of course, they had these handmaidens, which expand the difficulties between the sisters, and we eventually find that this becomes almost a competition.
Excuse me,
Yes,
it's like surrogate mothers that you have today,
yeah, but yeah,
basically.
the handmaidens, right. So the competition that existed between the tribes of Yehuda and Yosef throughout the biblical period had its real source in the fractious family events of Yaakov and the distressing dynamics of the characterization of the relationship between Leah and Rachel. Of course, there's a question to be asked here. Does anyone have a question as to why Hashem would put this fractious relationship in the Torah?
I
Yeah.
was just thinking that maybe Hashem did that so that people can realize that even if you don't get along at some point, that there is still hope that you can work things out together. As a life's lesson to all of us. Just a thought that came into my head.
Okay, that's
And
valid.
And also it's dealing with real feelings of jealousy and basically of jealousy, and how not good it is to have it happen in a family. It's like lessons for how we should not live up.
Okay, all right, anybody else? Hello, anyone there? Okay, so if we were to look at the commentators, we would actually find that there's a lot to be said about this and not a lot to be said. And that many of the commentators don't even address this. They actually take and they try to deal with it in a more family-friendly environment. They sometimes say that they were working together, they want to show more unity, etc. But there are commentators who say that these two tribes of Yehuda and Yosef represent the personal lives of a nation and the national lives of a nation in its very beginning, in its birth, and throughout its history. Now, what do I mean by that? Can anyone think about how one family may be representative, the families may be representative of personal lives, living a Torah life, etc. And then how family would get together in creating a nation. Can anyone speak to that?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I think it's like today when you have the Haredim against the secular Jewish people within Israel and the rest of the world.
Okay, that's okay. You want to elaborate a little bit? How does that affect anything?
Oh, it just shows that we're one family and we shouldn't be fighting each other.
We're all hated equally.
You're
That's
what?
it.
What was that?
I said we're all hated equally. It doesn't matter, Haredi, whatever. That's what happened in the Holocaust. If you had one grandparent or great grandparent that was Jewish, you were doomed.
Okay, but how does that relate to family creating harmony within itself and a family creating a nation?
They had to rise above the pettiness of feelings and personalities and get together. It's what people try to do all the time. Some people are successful and some aren't. And you see in Israel today, it's not successful as far as I can make out.
That it's not successful?
Right, because you have so many different opinions and so many factions, even the way the government is set up. I don't even understand the government, to tell you the truth.
Okay, okay. But that's okay to have different opinions and have different, it's what we do with those different opinions.
Exactly.
It's how we handle them between each other and how we treat each other by having those differences of opinion and different ideas and thoughts. So,
And not blooming into hating. That's a lot of what you see. That's the bad part.
okay, so we see that basically the story of Leah and Rachel and their children is much more than an account of their personal lives. It is really the description of the trials and challenges that their descendants will face in their attempt to create and forge a nation and maintaining unity within that nation. And we're seeing in Sefer Yehoshua some of the challenges, even now as the land is being parceled out. We're going to see that there is even some challenges at the very birth of this nation in inheriting the land, and how the different tribes see themselves in receiving what amount and where they're getting certain lands. So it is a very, very challenging kind of thing to see how the different groups handle the division of property. Okay. Now we know that that the Davidic line comes from Yehuda, the tribe of Yehuda, and that Jerusalem was the capital during the Davidic line of and the whole period of kings. That's tribe of Judah. But now, in the period of entering Canaan, the capital of the country is in Shiloh.
Right.
And where is Shiloh? It's in the area of Ephraim.
Mm.
So for 400 years, the capital is in tribe of Yosef, and 400 years, it's in the Davidic line in the tribe of Yehuda. Now, nowhere does it say that God did that intentionally. However, some things that look very interesting, 400 years in one place, in one tribe, 400 in another tribe, seems to be that nothing should be taken for granted. Now, let's take a look. And we're going to continue that. Let's turn now and actually see what is going to be given to the tribe of Yosef and through his sons. And we'll finish up with the two sisters after we hear exactly what's being given. Do you have the text? Chapter 16. Does everyone have that? Do we have someone who would like to read it? It's not too long.
I'll read it, Rhonda.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The portion that fell by lot to Yosefites ran from the Jordan at Jericho, from the waters of Jericho, east of the wilderness. From Jericho, it ascended through the hill country to Bethel. From Bethel, it ran to Luz and passed on to the territory of the Archites to Atarot, descended westward to the territory of the Yaphletites as far as the borders of Lower Beit Horon and Gezer, and ran on to the sea. Thus the Yosefites, that is Manasseh and Ephraim, received their portion. The territory of the Ephraimites by their clans was as follows. The boundary of their portion ran from Atroth Adar on the east to Upper Beit Horon, and the boundary ran onto the sea. And on the north, the boundary proceeded from Mechmethach to the east of the Tanakh Shiloh and passed beyond it up to the east of Yonoah. From Yonoah, it ascended to Atarot and Narath, touched on Jericho and ran on to the Jordan. Westward, the boundary proceeded from Tapuach to the Wadi Kana and ran on to the sea. This was the portion of the tribe of the Ephraimites by their clans, together with the towns marked off for the Ephraimites within the territory of the Manassites, all those towns with their villages. However, they failed to dispossess the Canaanites who dwelt in Gezer. So the Canaanites remained in the midst of Ephraim, as is still the case, but they had to perform forced labor.
Okay. Let's see here. All right, I put a map on the,
Okay.
okay. Let's talk about what we just read, okay? Do you see what? Here is Ephraim. Can you see that?
Yes.
Here is Manasseh. Okay, here is half of Manasseh on the east bank of the Jordan. They're over there, and the rest of the other half connected with the Jordan River in between is over here on the west bank of the Jordan. And so these two properties are quite significant if you look at them. You see these two here?
Yeah.
Very large in comparison, right?
Yep.
Now, let's see if I have the other maps. Okay, no, I don't. Okay, so here's Yehuda. Now, Yehuda at the time goes all the way over to the Mediterranean. This is incorrect. It goes all the way over here, goes all the way down here. So it's a significant piece here that Judah has. And this is a significant piece that Judah has. Now, here, right here, here's Benjamin. Benjamin is, you know, the son of Rachel.
Right.
Here, Yosef. These two represent Yosef. So here's Rachel's inheritance, basically, is like here. You see all this? This is quite significant. Now, I'm trying here to find, you know, me and my eyes are, oh, here's Shiloh. Shiloh, right here where the top arrow is pointing, is in Ephraim. This is where the capital of the country was for 400 years, right here in Ephraim. Now, if you look right here where I'm pointing, here is Jerusalem, right on the border between Yehuda and Benjamin. So for 400 years in Shiloh, the capital, during this period of time before the kings, and here after the kings, David takes over as king. the capital is here in Jerusalem. Okay, so you can see it on the map. You see that these two pieces, this property here is excellent land. It includes water availability. It has irrigation capabilities. It's prime real estate here in the center of the country.
Right.
So they really got a great inheritance, much to some of the other brothers' unhappiness. Now, let's continue. Can someone continue reading 17? Let's just finish up with what the tribe of Yosef gets. Adele, you want to read?
Sure, okay. And there was a lot for the tribe of Manasseh, a lottery, for he was firstborn of Yosef, for Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh, the father of Gilad, because he was a man of war. Therefore, he had Gilad and Bashan. There was also a lottery for the rest of the children of Manasseh according to their families, for the children of Aviezer, and for the children of Chelek, and for the children of Asriel, and for the children of Shechem, and for the children of Hefer, and for the children of Shemida. These are the male children of Manasseh, the son of Yosef, by their families. But Zelophehad, the son of Hefer, the son of Gilad, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, had no sons but daughters. And these are the names of his daughters, Machla and Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah. And they came near before Eleazar the priest and before Yehoshua the son of Nun, and the Lord commanded and said, Lamor, and said, the Lord commanded Moshe to give us an inheritance among our brothers. According to the commandment of the Lord, he gave them an inheritance among the brothers of their father. And there fell 10 portions to Manasseh, besides the land of Gilad and Bashan, which is on the other side of the Jordan, because the daughters of Manasseh had an inheritance among his sons. And the rest of Manasseh's sons had the land of Gilad. And the border of Manasseh was from Asher to Michmetat, that is before Shechem. And the border went along on the right to the inhabitants of En Tapuach. The land of Tapuach belonged to Manasseh, but Tapuach on the border of Manasseh belonged to the children of Ephraim. And the border descended to the brook Kana, southward of the brook. The cities of Ephraim are among the cities of Manasseh. The border of Manasseh was on the north side of the river, and its outgoings were to the sea. Southward it was Ephraim's, and northward it was Manasseh's, and the sea was his border. And they met in Asher on the north and in Yisachar on the east. And Manasseh had in Yisachar.
Wait, let's stop here because it's going now into some of the others. Okay, so we're going to stop right here with this. In this particular chapter, we do have mentioned the daughters of Zelophehad. I don't know whether you remember, but Adele gave a program for Hadassah about her father-in-law's book, Daughters Victorious, which was a excellent historical fiction of based on fact of the daughters of Zelophehad receiving property and God condoning that they, yes, in fact, should. And they are part of, as we read here, the Manasseh, the tribe of Manasseh. Now, let's continue. We're going to continue our little story here about, we're going to, we're going to continue with let me just get back to where we were. Okay, now, having said all of what we have said up to this point in terms of the family, the creation of the country, the inheritance, the infighting, the personal lives, the national lives, etc., what occurs during the time that we are in the nascent period of creating a country, we find that the brothers and consequently the tribes, subsequently the tribes, never actually fulfill the directive of God by being a united country, supporting Torah law all the time, not intermarrying, not accepting the false gods of other countries and other groups of people. They fall a little short. This is one of the unfortunate situations, but we see that there is attempts and striving towards creating this kind of a good country, but unfortunately, we don't always succeed. Now, the eventual resolution of the two brothers, I wanted to just kind of bring this back around. We started at the beginning with conflict. We start with the properties, and the brothers, and who does what to whom. We find that the account in Sefer Yehoshua is an expression of the great challenges that these tribes, actually I keep referring to them brothers, but the tribes face in this newborn nation and the difficulties that they have. Now the strife of Leah and Rachel is still with us, awaiting a resolution. But fortunately, the prophets have given us hope that the conflict between the brothers will be resolved, and that we today will see possibly the beginning of the end of that conflict. How is that possible? Well, I'm going to show you. Hold on. I'm going to open this up. We're going to show you a little bit here. Okay, hold on a second.
Go up again. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Okay, can you see this on the screen?
No,
No?
No,
no,
now, yes.
yeah.
Okay. Avis, can you read this?
It's very small. I can't. Oh, God, God said to me, mortal man, take a branch and inscribe upon it for Yehuda and the children of Israel, his compatriots, and take another branch and inscribe upon it for Yosef, the tree of Ephraim, and all the house of Israel and his compatriots. Draw the branches together to become one in your hand. Thus says the Lord God, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the lands of their exile, and I will gather them from afar and bring them to their land. I will make them into a single nation in the land of the mountains of Israel, and they will have one king. There will no longer be two nations. Sorry. Oh, and will no longer divide into two kingdoms. They will dwell in the land that I gave to my, they will dwell in the
Right here.
land I gave to my servant Yaakov, land in which their ancestors dwelt, and they dwell upon it, and they and their children and their children's children forever. My presence will be upon them, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. The nations will then know that I am God, who sanctifies Israel, for my temple shall stand in their midst forever. Can I
Okay,
say something, Rhonda? In the
yes,
story, it was Yehuda who came forward and said to Joseph, all this, told Joseph everything that had happened. So in a way, they were reconciled then.
they were reconciled then, but as we know, once they get into the land of Canaan, and then the kings, remember one king, Saul, comes from Benjamin.
Benjamin.
Okay, remember, it comes from Benjamin, and that didn't work out so well, did it?
Yeah,
And then the kingdom goes to Yehuda.
right. Can I also ask another thing? How
Yes.
is it that we saw the map that Shimon is in the middle of Yehuda?
Yeah, we're gonna find out why, and we're gonna talk about
Right.
that in a different
Okay.
time. But what I
Okay.
want you to understand here in this particular pasuk from Ezekiel, chapter 37, is that he predicts in his prophecy that the olive branch from Yehuda and the olive branch from Yosef will come together. They will be intertwined. They will no longer be two nations, and they will no longer divide into two kingdoms. And they will dwell in the land of, meaning of Israel, and they will be, and their ancestors will live upon the land, their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren forever, says the prophet. And my presence, meaning God's presence, will be upon them, and I will be their God, and I will be their king. They will only have one king. There's not going to be a nation with two kings. And the nations will then know that I, God, it sanctifies Israel, for my temple will be there forever, in their midst forever. In other words, the spirit, really the temple, not the physical temple necessarily, but the Shekhinah will be there forever. What is this foretelling here? What is this? What is this talking about? Can anyone tell me what, if you take the two branches, you're taking two branches, you're taking one olive branch, the other, you're twisting them together, you're bringing them, you're uniting them. And then it says, I'm going to have you come home to the land of Israel. What is this foretelling? What is the prophet telling us?
That Israel will always be here.
And there will be unity, not divisiveness. There will be unity of the
Okay,
people, the one people.
okay.
I don't think we've achieved it yet, but
Well, wait a minute,
there's
wait a
hope.
minute.
Yeah.
So wait a second. How is this gonna happen? What did we just read? And they're gonna come home. There's gonna be a kibbutz galiot. There's gonna be an ingathering of Yosef from the northern tribe and Yehuda from the southern tribe. Now, when did they come home? Yehuda, who was exiled in Babylon, comes home when? he comes home with Zerubbabel in the after Persia, after Babylon, after Persia, after the Esther story. A lot of us come back. That's the tribe of Yehuda. But during this period of time, where is Yosef? Scattered
They got
all
lost.
scattered all over the world by the Assyrians. But in the prophecy of Ezekiel, it says they're all going to come home. They're all going to come back. And what does this mean? It means actually that you and I and all of us are living proof
Proof,
of
right.
Kibbutz Galiot. We are all coming home from different places, and we were all fulfilling the return, the prophecy of return of the two brothers coming home together. Now, what is it that the prophets also say? That in the time of the return, and when the time is right, we will have Mashiach ben Yosef. Mashiach ben Yosef will come first, and he will help to pave the way for the Mashiach ben David. Did anyone ever hear of this before?
No.
No.
In the prophecy of the days to come, it says talks about Mashiach. There cannot be the messianic period of time until Mashiach ben Yosef, who will come. He will start the process for Mashiach ben David. And at that time, the brothers will be reconciled as they bring everybody into the Messianic age. So we found that at this time, that Yosef always paves the way for Yehuda. Yosef goes to Egypt before Yehuda brings the family to Egypt. In addition, we find that when we enter Canaan, Yehoshua, who is from the tribe of Ephraim, Ephraim being the tribe of Yosef, he brings in the tribes prior to the distribution of the land, and he paves the way for the Davidic line of Israel. So Yehoshua continued from the house of Yosef is bringing in all of the tribes into Eretz Yisrael, so that eventually the tribe of Yehuda will have David HaMelech in Eretz Yisrael. And then the prophet's vision for Mashiach, that Mashiach ben Yosef will come. He will herald in the beginning of an era which will be prior to the Mashiach ben David, which will be the Messianic age. But there are certain criteria for all of them, just like there were certain criteria for us to get to Egypt, to come out of Egypt, to get to Eretz Yisrael, to get to the Davidic line, to get to exile. There were always criteria, and yet in the end, sof, there will be a reuniting. There will be the two brothers bringing us all back home. And we are living in that time of coming home to Eretz Yisrael and fulfilling of the prophecy of Ezekiel. Okay?
Yeah, it's very powerful.
So, any question?
Mashiach ben Yosef paving the way for the
Uh,
Mashiach ben David.
Yeah.
Prophet's vision.
Right. I haven't gone into
You don't
depth.
know,
I do,
okay.
there are lots of prophets
Oh,
who talk about this.
okay.
I need to stop. Recording stopped. Hold on 1 second. I want to stop